When you travel to a new country, you will experience many new things. Case in point, the first time I ate pork was in Hong Kong. My Muslim family and I were vacationing, and after a long day of sightseeing, we decided to eat at a local McDonald's. We ordered cheeseburgers thinking it was regular beef, but later on we actually found out that it was pork. Now, in hindsight, it probably should have been obvious since we were in a Chinese city. But coming from Indonesia, where most meats sold here are beef, we forgot that we were in a different nation, where the culture of that nation will be very different and therefore will have their own identity. Assalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh. Ladies and gentlemen, the honorable judges, the excellent audiences, and to all my fellow competitors, allow me to introduce myself. My name is Sterra. I am from SMA 3 Bandar, Lampung, and I'm here today to deliver you a speech entitled "Culture is the Identity of a Nation and therefore must be protected." Without further ado, let's begin. Culture derives from a French term, which in turns derive from a Latin term colere, which means to tend to the earth and grow, or cultivation and nurture. Culture is the characteristics of a particular group of people, encompassing knowledge, languages, music, arts, and many more. Identity, meanwhile, according to Oxford Dictionary, is the characteristics, feelings, and beliefs that makes people different from each other. Each and every nation in the world have their own different cultures. Cultures that existed because of the different environment they are in, which creates different responses that is unique to that environment. Americans, for example, are very goal-oriented and individualistic. That is because of European settlers at a time who needed those traits to be able to survive in the new continent they were in. And Japan is a country that values perseverance and harmony due to being an isolated nation and having to endure many natural disasters. These traditions and beliefs is what create culture, creating a kaleidoscope of many different cultures for each nation. Many nations create many cultures, but oftentimes we see cultures that actually share the same culture with another nation. Batik is a national clothing for us Indonesians, but our neighboring country Malaysia also have a batik of their own. And the Romans and the Greeks share the same gods and myths, just with different names. These similarities happen when the nations coexist in the same environment, enabling them to interact with one another and therefore share each other's culture, adopting certain customs into their own culture. Our nation is an archipelago of over 1,800 islands and 40 provinces. That makes us one of the richest countries for culture. Not just that, because of the environment we are in, it created many different tribes that have their own traditions and beliefs. But not just that, because of trading and colonialism in the past, foreign cultures have cemented themselves in our country's culture. Religion being spread to trading and how our national language have some Dutch influences are one of the examples of how foreign cultures have been blended into our nation's culture, creating a new cultural identity for our nation. Cultural identity is important not only to distinguish each other's nation, but it is also a silent language for the people to speak to one another. It is a way for them to express understanding, and it brings them pride and solidarity. Brings them pride and solidarity for one another. More and more, however, we start to see a trend of how the younger generation forgetting their culture, favoring modern technologies and calling traditions old without understanding the significance of them. Without a culture that ties a nation's people together, will there even be a nation? Ladies and gentlemen, one of the many things I love about traveling to a new nation is discovering how their culture ties to their history. Hong Kong is a Chinese city, but it was also a former British territory, and it shows through how the architectures blend into each other and how English is the second language over there. In just learning about its history, you learn how the culture ties to the nation's history, giving it an identity that has lasted for many, many years, even in modern times. All of this is why culture is very important for a nation, and it is something that must be protected and celebrated. Travel your nation, discover traditional dances and traditional foods. Learn them, keep them alive for the future generations. And after that, travel the world, encounter new cultures, learn everything you can from the locals. Learn to appreciate how diverse the world can be. And always to remember, have pride for your very own culture. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope this speech was educational. Thank you so much for listening. Wassalamualaikum warahmatullahi wabarakatuh.